Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining me for today's webinar. My name is Amber Hines, and today we're going to be talking about factors to take into consideration when planning for a married couple. Last month, we talked about planning for a married couple and purchasing a Medicaid compliant annuity, and we're going to expand on that webinar today and just talk about some of the different factors to take into consideration when we do have a married couple where one spouse is going to qualify for Medicaid and one spouse is remaining in the community. You can find a copy of today's slides on the GoToWebinar dashboard if you're interested in downloading a copy. And then if you have any questions, feel free to type those in as I go along, and I'd be happy to answer those at the end of today's discussion. Again, my name is Amber Hines. My maiden name is Amber Gwynn. Some of you may know me by my maiden name. I've been working with elder law and estate planning attorneys for the last 15 years in assisting their clients with Medicaid compliant annuity purchases. I am licensed in all states, and I hold a Series 65 license with FINRA as well. I created Ashper to assist advisors and attorneys with pre-planning solutions as well as crisis Medicaid planning solutions. Some of the ways that Ashper can help you and your clients is that we provide complimentary case analysis, so we can help you to determine the optimal annuity amount, the term of the annuity, and which assets should be annuitized. Generally, we receive all of the clients' financial information as far as what type of assets they have, their income, their ages, and then we're able to put together a complimentary proposal that will address all of the items that you're seeing as far as the optimal annuity amount, the term, and which assets we should consider using to purchase the annuity. We offer assistance from the beginning to the end of a case, including providing quotes, assistance with the actual funding, especially if we're using IRA assets or existing annuity contracts to purchase the annuity. And then if we do have a situation where a client passes away during the time frame of the annuity, we also assist with the death claim process as far as reaching out to the state Medicaid agency to determine if there is a claim and then help the family to actually close out the annuity that would need to be closed in that situation. We work with A-rated insurance carriers and we offer top-notch customer service. Generally, we're able to get back to attorneys and advisors the same day as far as a proposal goes. And so we have very fast turnaround time, including the issuance of the annuity policies. So today we're going to be talking specifically about Medicaid crisis planning, and this is going to take place when we have at least one spouse that is already in a Medicaid approved facility, or we anticipate them going into a facility very shortly and they are going to need to qualify for Medicaid in the very near future. The goals when we have a crisis Medicaid planning case: first, we're going to try and convert countable resources or assets into non-countable or exempt resources in the most cost-effective, tax-efficient way. And then our second goal is to minimize or avoid estate recovery. When we have a married couple, there are going to be income and asset limitations for Medicaid qualification. First, if we look at the income limitations for a married couple, the institutionalized person or the person that would be qualifying for Medicaid, their income must be less than their cost of care. Usually this isn't that hard to achieve when cost of care can range anywhere from $4,500 a month in a state that is, let's just say a state like Texas, versus a state where we're looking at Pennsylvania or New Jersey, and the cost of care can be $15,000 a month. So when we consider a client's income and what their cost of care is, that test usually isn't hard to achieve. There are some states that are considered to be income cap states, and if you're in an income cap state, then you will need a qualified income trust or a Miller trust if the Medicaid applicant's income exceeds around $2,300 currently. It's important to note that the community spouse or the spouse that is not applying for Medicaid can have unlimited monthly income. That's something that causes a lot of confusion for people. So it's important to note that the community spouse that is not applying for Medicaid does not have any kind of income limitation. When we look at the asset limitation for a married couple, the institutionalized spouse or the spouse that is applying for Medicaid is usually able to keep around $2,000 of liquid resources. This is going to depend on the state, but the most common number is $2,000 or less. And then the community spouse or the spouse that is residing at home is able to keep 1/2 of the couple's accountable resources up to a maximum of $130,380. Again, this does vary by state depending on whether you are in a high, low, or a minimum maximum state, or if you are in a state that simply has a maximum amount of $130,380. Other resources that are going to be protected or exempt for Medicaid qualification purposes include the home, an automobile, personal goods or household goods and personal property, an irrevocable funeral trust or burial trust, and then some states do exempt IRAs or qualified retirement accounts as well. If your clients do have excess assets above the $130,000 or above the $2,000 asset limitation, we can look at developing a Medicaid eligibility plan, and this generally is going to first involve increasing or improving non-countable assets. So if there are improvements that need to be done to the couple's home, if they want to purchase a new car or buy new clothes, things of that nature, anything that is considered to be an exempt resource, we can take countable assets and improve the non-countable assets by making improvements to the home, car, and any other personal items that the couple may need. We can also purchase prepaid burial policies. We can do that through a local funeral home, or that can be done by purchasing a life insurance policy that's irrevocably assigned to a funeral trust. Also, we can consider paying off credit cards, mortgages, or other debt that the couple may have. And then once all of these items are looked at and we do any necessary spend down in these 3 areas, if there is money that's left over, we can consider purchasing a Medicaid compliant annuity that would comply with the Deficit Reduction Act of 2005. When we look at Medicaid planning with annuities, Medicaid annuity is always going to be a single premium immediate annuity, or a SPIA for short. It is never going to be a tax deferred annuity. A tax deferred annuity is an asset for Medicaid qualification purposes because there is cash value or surrender value that can be accessed by the client. Whereas a SPIA is a contract with an insurance company that is used to convert countable resources into strictly an income stream. So once it is annuitized, it's no longer a lump sum of money, is strictly an income stream to the annuity owner, to the payee. As a result of the Deficit Reduction Act of 2005, immediate annuities that are used in Medicaid planning must meet strict requirements. So there's many insurance companies out there that offer immediate annuities or SPIAs, but there's less than 10 companies out there that offer Medicaid compliant annuities. It's important that if your client is working with a local financial advisor who says that they're able to get a Medicaid compliant annuity for their client, that you actually look at the specimen contract and make sure that it has all of the necessary language that would be required by Medicaid before the client purchased the annuity. The 5 items that you're seeing on the screen here are the 5 points that must be included in a SPIA contract in order for it to be considered Medicaid compliant. So first, the annuity must be completely irrevocable, meaning that we can't change any aspect of the annuity policy. We can't change the payee, the beneficiary, the owner of the contract. most immediate annuities are going to be irrevocable when it comes to the income stream that's generated, but a Medicaid compliant contract must be irrevocable in all aspects. The next requirement is that the annuity must be non-assignable, so I can't assign the payments or the annuity contract to a third party or to a family member. So if I were to send a copy of the annuity contract to a company like J.G. Wentworth or Peachtree, companies that buy annuities on the secondary market, we would want them to indicate that the Medicaid annuity does not have any value to them because it is non-assignable. The next requirement is that the annuity must make equal payments without any balloon payments, which would be a very large payment at the end of the contract. In order for the annuity to be Medicaid compliant, it must make equal payments over the duration of the annuity. The fourth requirement is that the annuity must be actuarially sound. The actuarially sound requirement means that the annuity is structured so that it's going to make payments for the duration of the client's life expectancy or for a shorter period of time. So we can structure the annuity so that it pays out during the life expectancy of the annuity owner, but we cannot have an annuity that is longer than the life expectancy. And then the final requirement is that the state Medicaid agency must be named as a remainder death beneficiary if the annuitant passes away during the time frame of the annuity policy. The state would have a right to recover for the amount that they provided in Medicaid benefits. The different type of assets that can be used to purchase a Medicaid compliant annuity is really any type of liquid asset that the client has. If they have money in checking, savings, CDs, brokerage accounts, stocks, bonds, these are all accounts that are pretty easy to liquidate and then either wire money or issue a check to the insurance company to purchase the annuity. If your client has whole life insurance policies or non-qualified annuities that have substantial gain or deferred interest, we can look at doing a 1035 tax-free exchange from the existing non-qualified annuity or whole life insurance policy into a Medicaid compliant annuity. And then finally, if your client does have IRAs or retirement accounts that are countable in your state for Medicaid qualification purposes, we can look at transferring those types of accounts into an IRA Medicaid compliant annuity as well. First, we're going to look at a case study of a married couple. So first, we're going to be looking at a situation where we have one spouse in a nursing home and the other spouse is remaining at home in the community. The goals when we're planning for a married couple, first, we want to obtain immediate Medicaid eligibility without any kind of penalty period or transfer penalty period. And we want to achieve that Medicaid eligibility immediately for the institutionalized spouse or the Medicaid applicant by converting any excess resources they have into an income stream. The second goal in a married couple case is to provide the community spouse with peace of mind, as well as sufficient income and resources to maintain his or her lifestyle within the community. We're going to look at a case study of Roger and Nancy. The case facts involve Roger, who is 85 years of age. He has dementia, resides in a nursing home. He has monthly income from Social Security of $2,000 per month, and he's currently spending $10,000 per month on his nursing home bill. Nancy is the community spouse, Roger's wife, who is still remaining at home. She's 80 years of age, and she has monthly income of $1,000 per month from Social Security. The couple, as far as assets, they have a home, a car, and $300,000 of non-IRA bank accounts. If the couple does nothing at all, with them spending $10,000 per month on Roger's care, they're going to exhaust their entire life savings within a 30-month time frame, and that's determined just by taking the total assets of $300,000 and dividing that by the $10,000 per month that they are spending on Roger's care, they will have exhausted all of their resources within about 2.5 years if they do nothing and don't apply for Medicaid. When Roger passes away, Nancy is going to be left with limited assets and nominal monthly income. So instead of doing nothing, we're going to apply for Medicaid, but before we do that, we need to calculate what the spend down amount would be in this case. So Roger, as the Medicaid applicant or the ill spouse, he is allowed to keep his personal property, a prepaid funeral policy, and $2,000 of the $300,000 that they have as a couple. Nancy, on the other hand, as the community spouse, is able to keep the home, the car, her personal property, a prepaid funeral policy, and $130,380 of the $300,000 in cash assets. When we add the $2,000 that Roger can keep plus the $130,380 that Nancy can keep, we know that their protected assets or the exempt assets are going to be $132,380. And when we subtract that from the $300,000 that they have in cash assets, we determine that this couple is over-resourced by $167,620, and that's the amount that we need to spend down or convert from a countable resource into a non-countable resource. We can achieve the spend down in this case, or eliminating the excess resources, by purchasing a Medicaid compliant annuity for Nancy. We would be looking at putting around $167,000 into the annuity for the benefit of Nancy. She would be the annuity owner, the annuitant, and the payee. And the chart on the screen here is showing us that if we structure the spend down amount of $167,000 over Nancy's Medicaid life expectancy of 117 months, the annuity is going to make payments of $1,450 each month, so that the total payout is around $170,000 when we consider the small amount of interest that would be paid on the annuity contract. With Nancy being 80 years of age, she has a remaining life expectancy of 117 months. An annuity can only be structured or purchased for a whole number of months, so we would be looking at 117 months being the longest annuity time frame that Nancy could choose, but we could always shorten that time frame if she wanted to accelerate how quickly she receives the money back each month. The parties to the annuity contract are going to be that Nancy is the annuity owner, she is the annuitant and the payee. The primary death beneficiary, if Nancy does predecease the 117-month annuity, is going to be the state Medicaid agency, to the extent that Medicaid benefits are provided on behalf of Roger. And then, assuming there's remaining funds left in the annuity contract, the secondary or contingent beneficiary after the state would be the children, other family members, a trust, a charity, or whoever the family chooses to name as a secondary beneficiary. Many people ask why Nancy, the community spouse, would be the spouse that would be purchasing the annuity, and why Roger is not the purchaser of the annuity contract. If you recall us talking about the income limitations for a married couple, the community spouse does not have any type of income limitation. So we can create unlimited monthly income for the community spouse in all states and not have to contribute any of the community spouse's income over to the Medicaid applicant's cost of care. That applies in all states other than Illinois and New York. Those are two states that if the community spouse has a certain amount of income, then we do have to look at contributing some of their income towards the Medicaid applicant's cost of care. But in all other states, we're able to create unlimited monthly income for the community spouse and still achieve Medicaid eligibility for the Medicaid applicant. If we were instead to put the annuity in the name of the Medicaid applicant or the institutionalized person, is most likely that that annuity income is going to go towards their cost of care if we're not able to shift that income from the Medicaid applicant over to the community spouse by way of the monthly maintenance needs allowance, which we're going to talk more about. But I would say in 99% of married couple cases, unless we're dealing with IRA dollars or retirement assets, that the annuity is going to be purchased in the name of the community spouse and not in the name of the Medicaid applicant. When we look at the income calculations after generating the annuity for Nancy, she had Social Security income of $1,000 a month. She then also has an annuity at $1,450, so that her total income is $2,450 per month. In the state that we're working in, Nancy's monthly maintenance needs allowance is around $3,260 each month, and so this is the minimum amount of income that Nancy would be entitled to. When we add the two income sources, the annuity plus Social Security, and we determine that she has income of $2,450, she actually has a shortfall each month where she cannot meet that monthly maintenance needs allowance. She's short around $810 per month. So she's going to receive that income from Roger each month to make up for the fact that she doesn't have enough of her own income on her side of the equation. With her receiving part of Roger's income each month, his copay to the facility is going to equal his $2,000 that he has from Social Security, less the amount that he's going to shift over to Nancy at around $810 each month. And then also we would need to subtract out a $50 monthly personal needs allowance, which would allow him to buy personal items, get a haircut, things that Medicaid is not going to cover, so that we're able to determine that Roger's patient liability or his copay on a monthly basis is going to be $1,140 per month. The economic results of the 117-month annuity is that the couple was anticipated to pay $10,000 per month for Roger's care. By applying for Medicaid and spending this couple down, we were able to reduce Roger's copay to the facility to $1,140 per month, so that the couple experienced a monthly savings of almost $8,900 per month in paying for Roger's care. The advantages of the annuity plan is that we were able to obtain immediate Medicaid eligibility for Roger without having any kind of penalty period or private pay period. We also created sufficient monthly income for Nancy through the use of the annuity so that she is able to continue living in the community. Potential disadvantages would be that the state Medicaid agency is going to be the primary death beneficiary to the extent that Medicaid benefits are provided on behalf of Roger, so that if Nancy does predecease the 117-month annuity term, the state Medicaid agency is going to have a right to recover against the annuity. In order to reduce the likelihood that the state would have a right to recover, many people will choose to shorten the annuity term to something less than the full life expectancy of 117 months. The impact on the Medicaid compliant annuity when each spouse passes: Roger, the Medicaid applicant, passing away is not going to have a direct impact on the annuity policy, because Roger, if you recall, is not the annuity owner, he's not the annuitant, and he's not the payee in this situation. And so if Roger passes away, the annuity is going to remain in effect because it is Nancy's annuity contract, not Roger's. When Nancy, the community spouse and the owner of the annuity, does pass away, the state is going to be the primary beneficiary, so they're going to have a right to recover against the annuity. and anything that's remaining after the state is paid would be going to the secondary or contingent beneficiaries. The timing or the steps to secure Medicaid eligibility through purchasing an annuity. First, we need to have one spouse enter a facility so that the snapshot date is established and we're able to maximize the amount of resources that the community spouse is able to keep. Once one spouse enters a facility, we then can determine what the spend down amount is. Like in our example, the spend down amount was the $167,000, or the amount that we need to convert from countable resources into an income stream. And then the third step in the process is going to be to purchase the Medicaid compliant annuity with the spend down amount. And once the annuity is purchased, the Medicaid application can be completed and submitted to your local Medicaid office. The different factors that we take into consideration when determining the term of the Medicaid compliant annuity are first the client's ages, the client's health, the spend down amount, the income needs of the client, and then whether the annuity is being purchased with pre-tax or post-tax dollars. And we're going to be talking through each one of these 5 factors that are taken into consideration. Factor 1, the community spouse's age. Let's assume that instead of Nancy being 80 years of age, she is 95 years of age instead. As the Medicaid compliant annuity owner gets older, his or her life expectancy does increase. So if you recall, with Nancy being 80 years of age, she had a remaining life expectancy of 117 months. Whereas if we look at Nancy being 95 years of age, she is 15 years older in that scenario. So her life expectancy is going to be just under 3.5 years, or 40 months in that situation. So as the annuity term shortens, the Medicaid compliant annuity payments are going to increase. We're basically expediting the speed at which the annuity is going to be returned, or the money is going to be returned to the annuity owner as the person gets older, or as we shorten the annuity time frame. If we're looking at a life expectancy now of 40 months instead of 117 months, we still would be looking at the same spend down amount of 167,000. But instead of structuring the annuity over 117 months, we're now looking at a 40-month time frame, which is going to obviously increase the amount of income that is going to be paid back to Nancy on a monthly basis. Instead of the annuity payment being $1,450 each month, now once we shorten the annuity time frame to 40 months, we see that the payments on a monthly basis are $4,200. In this scenario, when we look at Nancy's income now, she still has her Social Security income at $1,000 per month. And when we add in the annuity payment at $4,200, we see that her total income is $5,200 each month. Her monthly maintenance needs allowance is going to remain the same at around $3,300 per month. And so instead of her having a shortfall in this situation, her income now exceeds what the monthly maintenance needs allowance is. So she's not going to receive any of Roger's income in this scenario, because she has enough of her own income to make up the monthly maintenance needs allowance. When we determine Roger's copay to the facility, on the right-hand side of the screen now, you can see that we're simply looking at Roger's income at $2,000 from Social Security. We see that he's not going to shift any income over to Nancy, and that he still has a $50 monthly personal needs allowance, so that his copay in this scenario is going to be $1,950 each month. When Nancy's income is exceeding the monthly maintenance needs allowance, we know that she is not going to receive any of Roger's monthly income. So Roger's Medicaid copay to the facility increases in this scenario because Nancy has enough of her own monthly income that she does not need to receive, or she will not be entitled to receive any of Roger's income in this second scenario. The economic results of the 40-month Medicaid annuity term is that the couple is still expected to pay $10,000 per month for his care. We were able to reduce the copay to $1,950 so that the couple still experiences a monthly savings of over $8,000 per month. What about Roger's age? So Roger, as the Medicaid applicant, his age or longevity does not directly impact the Medicaid annuity term because he's not going to be listed on the contract as the annuity owner, the annuitant, or the payee in this situation. But the Medicaid applicant's longevity and age is something to indirectly consider, because the annuity beneficiary designation is only going to be triggered when Nancy passes away. So if we structure this very long annuity contract at 117 months and Roger passes away 2 or 3 months down the line, we need to make sure that Nancy is going to have sufficient income so that she's able to live on the $1,450 or whatever amount of income would be generated for her benefit, knowing that she's not going to continue to receive very much of Roger's income through, or she won't be receiving Roger's income through the monthly maintenance needs allowance calculation anymore if Roger passes away. The second factor to take into consideration is going to be the community spouse's health. So if we consider Nancy being in poor health, she may be worried that she's not going to survive the 117-month annuity term, which would result in the state being able to recover against the annuity. So she wishes to reduce the annuity term to 48 months instead of doing the full 117-month annuity term. With the state being the primary beneficiary of the annuity in most states, and if the community spouse, if their health is questionable, we're likely going to want to shorten the annuity term to a time frame that we're fairly confident that the community spouse will outlive. So in this case, we reduce the term to 48 months. We're still looking at the same spend down amount of $167,000, and instead of structuring the annuity over 117 months or 40 months, we're doing a 48-month time frame, and that's going to result in monthly income for Nancy of $3,500 each month. Again, we add Nancy's income from Social Security plus the annuity income at $3,500 and determine that she has total income of $4,500 per month. This, in this second scenario, does exceed the monthly maintenance needs allowance again, so that Roger's copay to the facility still equals $1,950 without any shifting of income from Roger over to Nancy. The economic results of the 48-month annuity time frame is going to be exactly the same as the 40-month because her income still exceeds the monthly maintenance needs allowance, and the couple experiences a monthly savings of $8,050 per month. Let's assume that Nancy passes away 60 months after the 48-month annuity is purchased. Many people will ask what happens to the annuity once the community spouse passes. In this second situation, nothing is going to happen to the annuity term because the annuity is going to be structured over a 48-month time frame. And if the community spouse passes 60 months after the annuity is purchased, then the annuity is already done paying out in 4 years. So the community spouse passing away 5 years after the contract is purchased is not going to have any impact on the annuity policy at all, because the annuity is done paying out in a 4-year time frame. Whereas if we assume that Nancy passes away 12 months after the annuity is purchased, the beneficiary designation would be triggered in this situation, with Nancy being the annuity owner and the annuitant on the annuity contract. We would immediately notify the insurance company that Nancy has passed away. The state, being the primary beneficiary of the annuity, would have a right to recover 12 months worth of Medicaid that they provided on behalf of Roger, and this is going to be at the Medicaid reimbursement rate versus the full private pay rate. The remaining annuity amount of $65,000 would be paid to the couple's children as the secondary or contingent beneficiaries, and the children would have a right to choose either a lump sum of cash at a discounted rate, or they could choose to continue the monthly payments as scheduled. How do we determine the $65,000 amount that would be remaining in the contract? We start out with the initial annuity purchase amount of $167,000. We then subtract out 12 months worth of payments that would have been made under the annuity contract at $42,000. And then we also subtract out the Medicaid repayment as the primary beneficiary for $60,600, and we determined that the beneficiaries in this case would be entitled to $65,020 that would be remaining in the annuity contract. This amount is going to be greater than if the couple would have just continued to privately pay at a rate of $10,000 per month for a 12-month time frame, because the Medicaid reimbursement rate in this state is significantly less than what the private pay rate would be. In addition to the community spouse receiving the annuity payments back quickly in order to avoid estate recovery, we also would be considering the long-term care needs of the community spouse when we structure the annuity contract. So if the community spouse is in questionable health or is not in great health themselves, we likely are going to want to receive the payments back quickly for the community spouse so that they can do their own long-term care planning, whether that be looking at transferring assets into a Medicaid asset protection trust in order to start the 5-year look-back period, or simply to get that money back to the community spouse quickly so that they can do their own type of planning with the annuity payments. The third item that we would take into consideration is the spend down amount. Instead of a spend down amount of $167,000, if we consider that Roger and Nancy have a spend down amount of $500,000, the numbers are going to look drastically different in this other scenario. As the spend down amount increases, obviously the annuity payments are going to increase as well. So with larger spend down amounts, we may want to look at stretching out the annuity term over a longer period of time. If we were to annuitize a $500,000 spend down amount and we did that over a 12-month time frame, the annuity is going to generate monthly income of almost $42,000 per month. Whereas if we look at a $500,000 annuity purchased over 40 months, the payments are going to be a little bit more reasonable at $12,600 per month. And finally, if the $500,000 is used to purchase a 117-month annuity, the monthly payments from the contract is going to be around $4,300 each month. You can see here on this screen that as the annuity term, either 12 months, 40 months, or 117 months, as that annuity term increases, the payment amount from the contract is going to decrease because we're stretching out the spend down amount over a longer period of time. While a 12-month annuity is technically going to be acceptable as being actuarially sound for Medicaid qualification purposes because it is paying out within the person's Medicaid life expectancy, we often caution people of doing very short-term annuities with large spend down amounts. We don't want to create any red flags with Medicaid office if we are generating substantial amounts of income over a very short period of time. So I usually like to look at the geographic region that I'm working in as far as the cost of care. If I'm working in a state that has a cost of care of $15,000 a month, then it's usually okay to create that amount of income by way of the annuity. But if we're working in a state that only has a cost of care of, say, $5,000 per month, then it's going to look a lot more abusive to do a $40,000 or even $20,000 annuity payment in a state that has a very low cost of care. The next factor that we would take into consideration is going to be the income amount of the couple. As we talked about, the monthly maintenance needs allowance, or the MIMNA, is the minimum amount of monthly income that the community spouse is entitled to. The MIMNA should not be confused with an income cap because the community spouse is entitled to unlimited monthly income. If the community spouse does not have enough of his or her own monthly income, then they're going to receive some of the institutionalized spouse's income on a monthly basis to bring them up to the MIMNA amount, and so that they can maintain what their lifestyle is in the community. So in summary, if the community spouse's income is greater than the MIMNA, then the community spouse does not receive any of the Medicaid applicant or the institutionalized spouse's income. Whereas if the community spouse's income is less than the MIMNA, then the community spouse is going to receive some of the institutionalized person's income to bring them up to the MIMNA amount. An example of income being shifted from the institutionalized spouse over to the community spouse is the example that we talked about with 117-month annuity. In this scenario, the community spouse, Nancy, only had monthly income of $2,450, so she was short and did not have the $3,260 each month of income. So we saw that Nancy is going to receive part of Roger's income each month. An example of income not being shifted under the MIMNA was the 48-month annuity time frame, where Nancy's total income was $4,500 each month. She had more income than $3,260, and she didn't receive any of Roger's income. So Roger's copay to the facility was $1,950 each month. In summary, if we're shifting income from the institutionalized spouse to the community spouse, if this is relevant in your case, you should consider the spend down amount, the community spouse's actuarially sound life expectancy, and how much income we're looking to create by way of the annuity income. But if shifting income from the Medicaid applicant to the community spouse is not an issue in the case that you're working on because the community spouse's income already exceeds the MIMNA, you may want to shorten the annuity time frame so that the community spouse would receive the money back quicker because they're not going to receive any of the Medicaid applicant's income anyways. Finally, the fifth factor is going to be the type of funds that are used to purchase the annuity. There's two different types of Medicaid compliant annuities that can be purchased. One is an annuity that is purchased with pre-tax or retirement assets. And this is a situation where clients have money that are currently in a retirement account, a 403B, an IRA, a 401k, a deferred compensation plan where the money has never been taxed before. And so if we purchase an annuity with a IRA account or a retirement account, none of that money has been taxed. So the entire annuity payment is going to be considered taxable income as the annuity would make payments back to the owner. Whereas if we look at an annuity that's purchased with non-qualified funds, this is an annuity that would be purchased with money coming from checking, savings, or other accounts that have already been taxed. In that situation, since the money has already been taxed, as the monthly annuity payments are made back to the owner, only the interest, which is a very nominal amount, is going to be considered taxable income. The return of principal or the amount that's used to purchase the annuity is not going to be considered taxable income on a non-qualified annuity. If we look at an example of a Medicaid compliant annuity, an IRA Medicaid compliant annuity being purchased with $100,000 over a 60-month time frame or 5 years, the annuity is going to create monthly income of $1,700 per month. The total payout, when you multiply 60 months times the monthly payment of $1,700, equals $102,000. Since this money has not ever been taxed before and we're working on a pre-tax basis, the entire annuity payment of $1,700 will be considered taxable income over the 60 months that the annuity is going to make payments. Whereas if we look at a non-qualified annuity and we consider the same $100,000 being used to purchase the annuity, that $100,000 has already been taxed if it's coming from a checking or savings account or other after-tax account. It's going to create the same amount of income at $1,700 per month. The total payout is going to remain the same at $102,000, but the biggest difference in a non-qualified annuity situation is that only the $2,000 of deferred interest is going to be considered taxable income over the 5-year annuity time frame. The return of the $100,000 is not going to be taxable. So in most situations, when we're looking at an annuity purchase that is purchased with non-qualified funds, we're not as concerned about having taxes withheld from the annuity payments because the tax consequences of a $2,000 interest amount over a 5-year time frame is going to be very nominal. Not all states consider the community spouse's IRA to be a accountable asset and may already be protected without any action or any spend down required. But if your state does consider the community spouse's retirement plan to be countable, we can help to convert that countable IRA into a tax qualified or an IRA Medicaid compliant annuity. This map is showing you a picture of states that consider the community spouse's IRA to be countable versus exempt. All of the states that are in blue on the map are states that consider the community spouse's IRA to be countable, whereas the states that are in orange are states that consider the community spouse's IRA to be either completely exempt or exempt if the community spouse is receiving their required minimum distribution. If we are working in a state where the community spouse's retirement account is a countable asset, we can deal with that account by either, depending on the value of the account, we can either keep the qualified account as part of the community spouse resource allowance, or we can convert the countable retirement account into an IRA Medicaid compliant annuity for the benefit of the community spouse. If you reside in a state that does consider the retirement account to be countable and we need to spend that down by converting an IRA Medicaid compliant annuity, we can do that by either a custodian to custodian transfer or a trustee to trustee transfer, or a 60-day IRA rollover. The custodian to custodian transfer would involve the existing retirement account. Let's just say it's at Morgan Stanley. We're able to have Morgan Stanley send the money directly to the insurance company that would be used to purchase the IRA Medicaid compliant annuity, so that that transaction is not going to be considered a taxable event. Whereas a 60-day rollover is going to involve the client receiving a check from Morgan Stanley and then assigning that check over to the new insurance company that would be issuing the Medicaid compliant annuity. So which option is chosen, either the trustee to trustee transfer or the 60-day rollover, is really going to depend on how much time we have to implement the annuity. The 60-day rollover is going to be quicker than doing the trustee to trustee transfer. An example of Nancy purchasing an IRA Medicaid compliant annuity over her life expectancy of 117 months, you see that the monthly payment on the annuity is not going to change. It's still going to remain at $14.50 each month. The difference in this scenario is that the full $14.50 is going to be considered taxable income, because this money was coming directly from a pre-tax IRA account, and now we're going to annuitize that and have the annuity start making payments to Nancy. And when we do that, it is going to be considered taxable income. If the Medicaid compliant annuity is purchased by way of a custodian to custodian transfer or a 60-day rollover, that transaction of funding the annuity is not taxable, but the annuity payments as they are made, the $14.50 each month, is going to be considered taxable income. So choosing a very short-term annuity when we're using IRA dollars usually is not benefiting the client very much, because if we structure the $167,000 with, for example, a 3-month time frame, the annuity is going to return all of that money back to the client in one tax year, and the client is going to receive a 1099 for $56,000 per month for each annuity payment. So we're really not stretching out the tax consequences over multiple tax years if we structure the annuity for a very short period of time. For purposes of spreading out the tax consequences over multiple tax years, when we're using IRA dollars to purchase the annuity, we generally see that annuities purchased with pre-tax dollars are going to be longer annuities than if we're using non-IRA dollars or post-tax dollars to purchase the annuity. In summary, shortening the annuity term is going to increase the Medicaid compliant annuity amount on a monthly basis. It is going to decrease the likelihood that we are going to shift income from the Medicaid applicant over to the community spouse, because we are increasing the amount of the annuity payment, which is likely going to mean that the community spouse's income exceeds the MIMNA. It's going to decrease the likelihood that the state will have a right to recover against the annuity, because the quicker the community spouse receives those payments back, the less likely the beneficiary designation is going to come into play. And then finally, if we're using pre-tax or IRA dollars, when doing a very short-term annuity, this is going to increase the amount of taxable income that the client has. And now I'm able to answer any questions that people have. Let me just see if anybody submitted questions. There's a question here that is specific to Illinois, where in the scenario of the income exceeding the MIMNA in Illinois, there would be a portion of the income that from the community spouse that would be paid over to the Medicaid applicant's cost of care. But again, that's only going to be in Illinois and New York that there would be any kind of spousal support that would be paid from the community spouse on behalf of the institutionalized person. I can get you a chart of how that amount is determined in Illinois. I'll email that over to you. There's a question here about what about an annuity that's purchased by the Medicaid applicant, but the community spouse is a payee and the beneficiary before the state. We have used that as a planning opportunity in situations where the institutionalized spouse does have qualified or pre-tax dollars. We refer to that as name on the check rule, where we're using the Medicaid applicant's IRA account and we're annuitizing the IRA that's owned by the Medicaid applicant and shifting that, naming the community spouse as the primary beneficiary and also as the payee. Really, the only time that that type of planning opportunity is used is when we have an IRA that's owned by the Medicaid applicant, because we can't shift an IRA from the Medicaid applicant over to the community spouse without paying all of the income taxes on the Medicaid applicant's IRA. And so it really depends on what state you're in as to whether the name on the check rule will work the way that you want it to work. In situations where we're not using qualified money that's owned by the Medicaid applicant, it's going to be best to have the community spouse be the owner of the annuity because they can have unlimited monthly income, whereas the name on the check rule is a little bit more risky because you're risking that income being deemed to belong to the Medicaid applicant and then being charged towards their cost of care. So if you want to send me an email with which state you're in, I can tell you whether I've used it there and whether it's something that works based on my experience. My email and phone number are on the screen if you have questions that you want to email to me as well. Somebody has a question about what if the income that is generated through the annuity is not spent down as it is received? Does it not count as assets? That's a great question. So once we submit a Medicaid application on behalf of the Medicaid applicant, and we show that the couple has been spent down to the allowable asset limitations, the state can no longer consider the income payments that would be deposited into the community spouse's checking or savings account, even if that income causes the community spouse's assets to exceed the $130,000 that they would be entitled to. That's a federal rule that once you get the Medicaid applicant approved for Medicaid, or once that application has been submitted, the community spouse's assets are no longer taken into consideration for purposes of continuing Medicaid eligibility for the Medicaid applicant. There's a question about who holds the $50 monthly personal needs allowance. this is going to be an amount that the Medicaid applicant is able to use to pay for haircuts, personal items, things of that nature. And so when the nursing home or when Medicaid does determine what the copay amount is that the Medicaid applicant would need to pay, they're always going to reduce that amount by what your state considers to be the personal needs allowance, and that's going to be paid to the Medicaid applicant to allow them to buy personal items. Another person is asking, what about the shorter annuity timeframes? Aren't we risking that the annuity is going to cause the community spouse to be over-resourced again? And again, that's a situation of once we get the Medicaid applicant on Medicaid, the community spouse's resources are no longer considered. And so it doesn't matter if we shorten the annuity time frame and the annuity does exceed what the resource allowance is for the community spouse after the annuity is purchased. And I think that I've answered most of the questions here, but again, if you have other questions, feel free to reach out to me either by phone or email. I want to thank everybody for joining me today for today's webinar. Look for an email on October's webinar next month, and take care, everybody. Thank you.